everyone. Welcome back. Today I am here with Preston. Thank you so much for being here, Preston. Dr. Igwe, see? Sorry, my bad. So, could you tell us a little bit about where you currently are in your med journey? I understand that you're a resident at UCLA. Tell us more about that and how that experience has been for you so far.
Yeah, so I'm a PGY2 in the UCLA psychiatry program. Moved to LA from Houston and have been enjoying it so far. As a second year resident, we have more responsibility during call in terms of mentoring the interns, in terms of just really running the show. We run the inpatient services for the most part. And so that's been fun. Unlike intern year, this year is going to be all psychiatry, so no more of the other specialties that we have to rotate through in intern year. And though I enjoy learning from those other specialties, I'm really excited to be doing all psychiatry, which is really what my passion is. Um, and so far, it's been going well. We rotate through the Ronald Reagan UCLA Hospital, which is in Westwood, and also the West Los Angeles VA Hospital, which is in West LA. And currently, I'm working at the VA on the inpatient side of things for the next 3 months, and really enjoy working with this population, with veterans. A lot of our patients are minorities in terms of like racial and ethnic minorities, also low socioeconomic status. So, marginalized populations, which is the population I enjoy working with the most.
That's amazing. And it's good to see that you love what you do. And so that makes me want to ask you why. Why did you choose to be an MD? What stood out to you about becoming a medical doctor? What stood out to you in choosing a specific field of medicine?
Well, I always say it's a mixture of many different things. To start growing up in a Nigerian household, you already have that kind of influence from your parents from very early on to do
Yeah.
one of like five different specialties,
Yep.
doctor, lawyer,
Or
engineer,
engineer. Yep.
pharmacist, nurse. And so, doctor was right there. So
Yeah.
definitely was kind of put on that path early on by parents, but not recently, but also as I grew older, discovered that I had a passion for it myself. I always say being a doctor is one of the few things that I could actually see myself doing. One of the only things I could actually really see myself doing. Um, so I went to like a high school for people who are interested in medicine, and a lot of us from that high school are now doctors, dentists, pharmacists, nurses, and so that was a really good experience. And it was a high school of pretty much majority minorities, and a lot of us came from low socioeconomic status too in Houston. So really surrounded by that type of excellence from a very early age prepared me well for undergrad and then medical school. In medical school, continued to have a passion for what I was doing, so I knew I was on the right path. After my first year in medical school, I really discovered my passion for psychiatry after doing a preceptorship at a pediatric burn hospital, where I was working on an interdisciplinary team of trauma surgeons, psychiatrists, and clinical psychologists. And I really saw how important psychiatry was to that team, how dynamic the field was, and how important it was to the healing of our patients, the kids who suffer traumatic brain injuries, but also really bad mental health issues too, as a result of those traumas. So a lot of PTSD, depression, anxiety, um, getting reintegrated back into their normal life and being victims of bullying and things like that because of how they look. So psychiatry was critical to that team, and I got a lot of fulfillment from doing that, and that really set me on the path to where I'm at now.
I want to move back a little bit to the med school process, you applying to med school. Similar to you, definitely had that Nigerian influence, the doctor, lawyer, engineer. I'm already an engineer. I'm also becoming a doctor. It's a lot to
Okay,
carry.
okay.
But at a point in time, you have to make that decision for yourself, like you said, to pursue this career path. And you have the dream and the vision. So, what did it look like you putting that work in, putting that time in? How was taking the MCAT for you? How many times did you take it? What was your GPA, if you don't mind sharing? And did you encounter any challenges with regards to applying to medical school?
Yeah, so when it comes to applying, I love sharing my story because I was not the prototypical pre med student at all. Um, I think, I had a lot of challenges. One, really not having a lot of mentorship, to be honest, as a pre med at Notre Dame. Like, one being one of the few black pre meds at Notre Dame, and I think one of like less than five people to really graduate. Still being pre med was tough. But I did have, other people around me who we could, lean on each other and help support each other through the process. Um, did not have the perfect GPA. I was a sociology major, and I was also a pre-health major, so which was a supplementary major at Notre Dame. So pretty much like double majoring. And I loved the sociology classes, and I loved some of like the science classes, but not a lot of them. And that's why I switched my major from biology to sociology, while remaining pre-med. I think that was one of the best things I could have done as an undergraduate student. And that's something I always encourage people to do. That don't think you have to major in biology or chemistry or microbiology or whatever in order to go to medical school. Major in what gives you joy, what you enjoy studying and learning about. Make sure you still take your prereqs and you can still get into medical school. You don't even have to take your prereqs while you're doing your main undergrad degree. You can take them later. You can do a post-bac. So, there's many different ways to get to where you want to go. Um, I took MCAT one time during my senior year of college, and so that meant I had to do a gap year, which I did. In my gap year, I retook a couple classes that I didn't really do so well on while I was at Notre Dame, in order to get my science GPA up. I think my overall GPA was like a 3.3. So definitely, not the average GPA that you hear med schools talk about that they accept. So you got to remember that average is an average, and so that means there's people below and people above, right? So you can still get into medical school without having that average GPA. And then my science GPA, I think, was worse than that, to be honest. My science GPA, I think, was like a 2.95. And so, and I say that, unashamedly because I'm still here in medical school and I can be like an example of someone who doesn't have perfect grades who was still able to accomplish their goals. Um, and so, yeah, did a gap year, went back to Houston, took those classes, also worked as a tutor at a different tutoring companies and freelance tutored as well. Because I realized when you spend your whole life trying to get to med school and be a doctor, your skill is being a student and helping other people be good students. So tutoring just came naturally to me. It was something I did since high school. Um, yeah, and the exam itself, by the grace of God, I did well on. So I got a 5.10 on the MCAT. I think I was one of the first classes of people to take the new MCAT. So they had like, the social sciences section on there. That was, a big part. Um, I always say that, like, I think one of my saving graces was the cars section. I know a lot of people struggle with that, but for me, like, reading comprehension and came pretty, naturally to me because I read a lot as a kid and took like AP literature, AP language. So I was constantly working on that without even really knowing it. And so what I really had to work on was the physics and the chemistry sections. So studying for that was rigorous and grueling and tough, but you just put the time in, do as many practice questions as you can, and then you take the test with confidence. Knowing that you did your best. Um, so those are struggles for me. Another big struggle is financial struggles. I'm the first doctor in my family, like in my entire lineage. First generation college student too. So didn't have a whole lot of examples of people that I knew closely to follow, and so the fees were really high. So the fee assistance program that I think the AAMC offers was crucial, and I was really like blessed to have gotten that, and that helps pay for my medical school applications and for me to get a discount on the MCAT and things like that. So for people who may be in a similar situation, definitely look into that program and take advantage of it.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely take advantage of it. It helps me every time. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I love how transparent you are because I think it's super important for people to see people that look like us that are doing well and living the dream or living the prayer that we've been working so hard towards. So thank you so much for being so transparent in that. So you finished undergrad, you went to medical school, and now you're in residency. How was this transition for you into residency? There definitely is a big shift in your time, a big shift in your mindset. What was that like for you finally being in a place you've been working so hard to be in for so long?
Yeah, I think for everybody, it's a different type of struggle. I think for me, um, big struggles that I had was one, moving, across the country for residency. I trained in medical school in Texas, and I'm, training in residency in California. Never lived in California before, no family in California. So making that move from, Houston to Los Angeles was tough. Um, a lot of homesickness and things like that. I think also, with people who are underrepresented minorities in medicine, we often have imposter syndrome. And you would think as you know progress and become more and more successful, get to the next level, that goes away. And it doesn't always go away. Sometimes it's still present, even though you are better able to deal with it. You're better able to know that it's not true. It's not a reflection on your skills. Um, but yeah, like going from University of Texas Medical Branch to UCLA, a program with a really big name and a lot of resources, a lot of esteemed faculty members. I was, in the back of my mind, like, am I really prepared for this? Am I ready for this? I knew that I was, but you always kind of have that question in the back of your mind that you got to silence. And so, having to deal with that. And then I think one of the hardest things to do in residency is to really get in the mindset of being a doctor. Like, you're no longer a medical student. Now you're a physician. People are
Hmm.
looking to you for the answers, even as an
You're
intern.
the one they'll come to. Yeah, it's you.
It's you now, like,
Yeah,
nurses and the other members of the professional team, they're asking you questions and expecting you
yeah.
to know the answers to it. Of course, when you're just starting, they give you grace and know that you're an intern, you don't have all the answers, but you do have that level of professionalism. You do have that level of, like, leadership that you have to, like, really step into. And so making that transition quickly from feeling like you're at the bottom of the totem pole as a medical student to not being a doctor and having to carry yourself as such, um, there's a learning curve for that too. And then
Hmm.
learning the entire medical system that's foreign to you. Those are probably the hardest parts of interning here.
Wow, and you are carrying it with grace. I wish you the best continually in your process. So let's talk about some things that keep you grounded and keep you going outside of medicine. I love to talk about the multifaceted nature of the doctors that we hear from med students and stuff like that. So what are some things that you are excited about and that you like to do outside of medicine? Some things that give you joy.
All right, now we really in my field of specialty right now,
Oh, yeah.
that wellness aspect of things. And that's something I really do pride myself on of, doing well. I think, medicine is just going to be one aspect of your identity. Medicine should not be your entire identity at all. And it's okay if it's just a job. For some people, it's a job that they do and it brings them joy and it allows them to sustain their lifestyle and they do good work. And if that's what it is, that's what it is. There's nothing wrong with that. And medicine's gonna take as much from you as you allow it to take. So you have to learn to have strong boundaries between life and work outside of life. So some things that I do is one, like, I'm a person of faith, like, so my faith definitely keeps me going. Reading my Bible, praying, understanding that, like, everything I've been given truly comes from God and it's not by my own doing. That keeps you humble and it also keeps you very grateful. Um, Also knowing that, like, I like to have fun. I like to go out and try different restaurants and go to different, like, cocktail bars. I like cocktails and try that out.
Everyone loves a good cocktail,
You
but
know
yeah.
what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And also, like, one funny thing about me that I talked about when I was on my residency application trail is I Yelp a lot. Like, I Yelp. So when I go out to these different places, I take pictures, I write reviews. Kind of an elite Yelper. You know what I'm saying? Just
Wow, you do it for the people because I know I never do that. Wow,
look
wow,
exactly.
wow,
And I've been doing that for like 7 years now. So it's a big hobby
wow,
of mine that I really
wow.
enjoy. Um, I like poetry, so I like go out to different poetry slams and open mics, live music. So when I can go out and go to shows and concerts, now that things are open, um, those are some things that I do and helps keep me balanced and gives me things to look forward to in addition to just serving my patients.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so great. Once again, thank you on behalf of everyone. Thank you for Yelping for the last 7 years. You don't know how many people you've helped. I'm sure you don't know how many people you've helped with your Yelp recommendations or Yelp, what do you call reviews. But awesome. It's good to hear that you have a life outside of medicine. I think it's great that we show just how diverse and how lit we are outside of the hospital. And then my last question is, so we've talked about a lot of, things you've learned from your past, things you've reflected on. At the end of every interview, I like to ask for my guests to pass on a word of wisdom, a word of encouragement to future doctors, current medical students, future residents, people who may be watching this and just are looking for a source of inspiration. So if you have any word of advice, anything maybe you've forgotten that you wanted to share, or just something encouraging for people watching this.
I have two. Is it okay if I give you two? Can I do two?
If you
All
have
right.
time, I have time. It's okay.
For sure. So, the first thing is something I've already stated earlier in the interview is to really give yourself grace. Like, I can't overemphasize that. Um, this is going to be a very tough journey. Being a pre-med is tough. Being a medical student is tougher. Being a resident is also very difficult. Um, but you get stronger, right? You get better. You get more resilient. You get more efficient. So as you reach each new level, you have new obstacles, but you're more prepared for those obstacles. But there will be days where you feel like you don't know anything, where you feel like everybody else is light years ahead of you, and you're not working hard enough. Got to say that's not true. That's not true. And you have to give yourself grace. You have to give yourself time to learn, time to gain mastery of all this new information that you're being exposed to, and the confidence will build with experience. So when you don't have that experience, you got to give yourself grace to obtain it and to learn. So that's super important. And my second, word of advice is to lift as you rise. I think we talked about how I didn't have a lot of mentors when I was a pre-med, which is why I've really made it a big part of my life to be a mentor to other people. Mentorship is very important to me. I have several mentors, and nothing makes me feel better than when when a mentee tells me that they just got into medical school, or they're applying to residency. They tell me the specialty. I look over the ERAS application and see them match into their specialty choice, at the end of the application season. That's something that happened to me this past year, and it was great to see my mentees living their dreams. And so you have to lift as you rise, as you gain, a larger platform, and you gain just more freedom to mentor other people and to support people in spaces they may not even be in yet. Definitely utilize that agency, utilize that platform to advocate for the people coming after you, because that's how we really all eat. That's how we all get to the next level and all live our dreams and support our families, is to work together. And there's plenty for everybody. So definitely lift as you rise.
Wow, thank you so much for that. I think it means a lot to me. It means a lot to a lot of other people listening to this. Thank you so much for taking the time to come here to share your story. Thank you for taking a break during work. I see that you're still at work, guys. He's still at work, okay?
Yeah, still at work, still got notes to finish, but
He's still saving lives as he's like talking to us. So thank you so, so much for being here. Have a wonderful night. And we wish you the best. I'm sure the people here are just wishing you the best. God bless you, and thank you so much for being here.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.